Ever since multiracial protesters dragged the statue of slaver Sir Edward Colston into the Bristol Canal, our masters have been spooked by the growing negativity surrounding British history. They are aghast that the British imperial legacy of language, laws, capitalism and culture is scrutinized and challenged by a spirited decolonization movement. Its supporters emphasize Britain's historic role underpinning slavery, colonialism, Third World poverty, apartheid, racism and even global warming. And decolonization appears to be more than just a passing fad. The Church of England has set up a reparations fund. More statues and sculptures have followed Sir Edward Colston onto the rubbish heap of history. The Venerable National Trust has identified 93 properties with links to slavery and empire. The trust may decide to follow the lead of the schools and universities, who want nothing to do with the slavers whose names they once carried. Where will this end? How long will it be before the role of the British royal family in African enslavement comes under greater examination? The Daily Mail newspaper admits as much. An article published today, January 6, states,
King Charles has supported research into the monarchy's involvement in the slave trade, but is now facing demands for billions of pounds in reparations from Caribbean countries.
With stakes this high and billions of pounds on the line, writers, historians, and key media personalities have been tasked with inspiring more reverence for Britain's role in the world, both past and present. Government Minister Penny Mordaunt became the latest public figure to enter the fray. Mordaunt, the leader of the House of Commons, penned a newspaper article in the Daily Mail, our master's house journal, decrying the, quote, anti-British, grievance-based attempts to rewrite history. Mordaunt's open letter begins with immediate praise for Britain's role in the abolition of the slave trade. She urges us to remember and applaud the 1,500 British sailors who were killed over 60 years, saving Africans from slavery. Oh dear, this sounds a little too much like a violent domestic abuser saluting his own restraint. The Royal Navy did patrol the sea lanes to interdict the transportation of slaves, but only after our masters had gorged themselves for 3 centuries on African blood and treasure. Slavery apologists always have to find a way to move swiftly past this inconvenient fact, and this time, Mordaunt had an ace up her sleeve. She came to this editorial, armed with a big, showy, and sentimental distraction, to keep the people looking up and suitably awed. Mordaunt threw her support behind a campaign to build the first memorial to the Royal Navy's West Africa Squadron. According to Mordaunt, the squadron stopped more than 1,600 ships and freed the stolen Africans, who were bound originally for the Americas. Mordaunt writes,
This Royal Navy flotilla was the main actor in physically destroying the slave trade. Between 1807 and 1867, it freed more than 150,000 men, women, and children destined for servitude in the Americas. It captured over 1,600 vessels and more than 1,500 sailors lost their lives in the process. It was dangerous work. At its peak, its 36 ships, crewed by 4,000 men, were using up half of the Royal Navy's budget, equivalent to as much as £50 billion today. Many hundreds of sailors died. Yet there is no memorial to their vital and dangerous work.
Oh, boo-hoo. At this point, Mordaunt, perhaps reddening with embarrassment, realized that she needed to add a few words about the millions of Africans who died during the Middle Passage, not to mention the tens of millions who entered multi-generational enslavement.
Yes, Britain had a role in the slave trade. Yes, people made money out of it. But let's be clear about something. We ended it. Our biggest contribution to the evil trade was to end it. We should honor those who gave their lives fighting to do that.
Even by current standards, this text is dreadfully tone-deaf. The body count of enslaved Africans reaches so high that it blocks out the sun. The African Holocaust is a genocide without equal in human history. It is probable that no one in Mordaunt's office really thought that this piffle would work. This may explain why this government press release was sneaked out to nationalist supporters in the small hours of this Saturday morning, when it was hoped fewer people would notice. Despite Mordaunt's failed intervention, we are certain to be back here again soon. Black History Month starts in February and, in an American election year, race issues will be front and center. Where America leads, Britain is sure to follow. The decolonization movement will not disappear. The British government cannot just wrap itself in the Union Jack and give the finger to the myriad calls for justice. So, should another frontbencher be asked to come up with 300 words on Britain and the slave trade, here's how it might be done. First, make sure to start with what sounds like an apology for Britain's role in slavery.
Slavery was an affront to humanity. At this time of reflection, and in the spirit of healing, we acknowledge the memory of the millions of people who perished.
Mentioning the millions who died will land in the ear as an expression of sorrow without it actually being an apology. Humility, real or imagined, always works, so lead with it. Then, as a holding maneuver, kick the whole bundle of thorns into the political long grass with the following formulation.
We recognize that times have changed and many of our institutions have begun the difficult process of reconciling with the past. We support this work and are actively contributing to the discussions. We also think it right to honor the bravery of British Armed Forces personnel, who showed what this country is really all about, and took the battle to the slave traders roaming the high seas.
A few more paragraphs flushed with facts and figures about the daring of heroic sailors, and you have a government press release that is, at once, rebuttal statement, campaign launch and debate stifler. Thanks for listening.